Hello, all. This is Dr. Day Maslak talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3, and in this particular video, I want to talk to you about whether professors actually take credit for their students' work and how to actually deal with it. So, if you don't know me, I'm an associate professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There were so many people that helped me out that I want to pay the favor forward and help you out. All right, so this does happen from time to time that professors do take credit for their students' work. I'd hope that it doesn't happen nearly as much as one would expect that it would happen, but I do believe that there are many different instances where this does happen. And I think a lot of it has to do with the ambiguity of the work that we're working on, right? So, an idea, the intellectual idea that you have is not necessarily clear cut. There's not really boundaries on a particular idea. So we often get confused about who owns a particular idea. And I think in a world where some people view the world is sort of zero sum. So if you take something or if I take something from you, then it removes you from sort of the competitive pool. Or we can take resources from each other. I think it does happen a lot more than one would expect. But if you take the view of the world as plentiful and we can build off of each other and really get to build off of everybody's strengths and weaknesses, then it might not happen as much. But I think a lot of people view academics, a lot of people view the world as sort of a zero sum game. And I personally don't view it that way, but I think a lot of people do. And we end up with these problems where somebody's taking more credit for some intellectual property than they should be, right? And they'll be calling it their own. You see all sorts of different things in terms of, various academics taking credit of their students' work or somebody else's work in the sense that maybe they remove their name or they don't have a conversation with them on the published work. Maybe that they get the students to do the vast majority of the work and the student doesn't necessarily feel that that they don't like the relationship and how it forms. A lot of this has to do with just being open with implicit contracts at the beginning, where people will have a conversation about what they should do going forward and repeatedly have these conversations. But as human beings, we don't have these conversations, and we often feel that somebody might have taken some portion of your idea from somebody else, and it does tend to happen, right? So if you do have this experience to you, and it's probably the reason why you're actually watching this video at this moment, how do you actually deal with this problem if somebody's taking credit for your work? And it doesn't have to be a professor. It could be, maybe it's another student that you're working with, whatever it is. It does happen where we have these sort of problems in intellectual property. The first thing is I wouldn't keep it to yourself in any sort of way, right? So go and talk, and I'm not saying like go and blab, talk to the whole world, right? Go put it on social media, whatever. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is go talk to a senior professor and kind of tell them maybe what's going on. Somebody that you have a trusted advisor relationship that is not with a person that you are dealing with. And the reason is you want to get their thoughts and feelings about what is going on here, because sometimes you don't understand the academic norms, you don't know what is the norms in your field, and they're different in every field. So that's why I'm not going to give you a explicit you should go do this kind of thing, right? So it varies in everybody's field, in their academic field, so don't expect it to be very clear cut. And that's why you should go talk to somebody that's senior, and they might help you out in terms of determining if this is actually occurring, right? But if you have that gut feeling, you should probably trust your gut that something is not right with the situation. That gut feeling that you get is usually pretty right, and it's usually pretty accurate. And most of us probably discount that gut feeling a lot more than what we should, and we probably should be acting on that. We just don't know what to do, and that's where a lot of, having this video is going to be helpful for you. So I would definitely go talk to a senior professor. Maybe it ends up being the chair in your department that you go talk to. Maybe it's somebody in a different department. Maybe you have an academic that you are related to that you can have a conversation with, and you just ask them to be confidential with this and see what they think with it, right? And most people are going to be good with that, and they're going to be really helpful. If you feel, and I think this is probably going into the second thing, if you feel that this is an issue and this continues to persist, I would just keep track of the various different interactions that you have. Write it down in a diary, write it down in, some sort of notepad or something like that. What this does, it not only sort of makes you feel that you're not really crazy in this situation, which you probably will feel that way. But it also, it gives you a history of going back and saying, well, this is what happened. I didn't feel this way. Or the other thing, it can kind of triangulate because we forget things, right? So if you're anything like me, I forget things all the time. And you can go back and say, oh, yeah, this happened repeatedly. And it kind of gives you a little bit of, it just helps you out with dealing with all of this because it's going to be probably an ongoing issue if you're working with somebody and you're feeling this way at this moment. So don't downplay that feeling. That's an important feeling. Use that as some sort of information in terms of doing something. Um, you know, if I were you and this was going on after this, I'd obviously go talk to the senior person first of all and see what their opinion is. But maybe you can even ask them to join a conversation and have an open conversation with that person that you feel slighted with, right? That there is some sort of academic, intellectual property issues that are going on. It's actually really common to have intellectual property issues at a university. That's where you have all these lawyers and stuff like this at a university. So if you're feeling that way, I would definitely go have an open conversation with that individual and tell them how you're feeling, right? They need to know how you're feeling. It might not be clear to them what they're doing, right? Because in academia, we're working with people from all different cultures often, and they might not be clear with the things that are going on with you, and you might not feel it that way compared to what they're doing if they're coming from a different culture and a different background. So you probably should make it clear before you sort of pursue things in any sort of way, right? So that's the fourth thing is that I want to say is no professor, no academic should ever make a student feel very, very uncomfortable. It's okay to sort of push the boundaries intellectually and make people feel kind of uncomfortable that way. But if it's a moment where you feel that you're being discredited, that you are being attacked, that somebody is taking something from you, that is a warning sign that there is something fundamentally going on that is not right. And you should not feel that way ever. And anybody in any workplace should never feel that way. That's really, really important to know that you should definitely never feel uncomfortable in a workplace. If you do, that is a big warning sign. And I would recommend if you are feeling like that for an extended period of time, so, several months, and really uncomfortable and it's just not working out, definitely try to leave that relationship. It's not going to sort of change in the future if you keep working at this. It's really difficult for a lot of us to deal with these kind of things. And so use that as a moment of like, maybe I should leave this particular relationship and move on to something else, particularly if you had several conversations with them and you let them know how you're feeling and it's not clearing up in any sort of way, right? So use this. You do have a lot of power. You have a lot of leverage. I think a lot of PhD students and a lot of graduate students don't realize this, but you do have a lot of power and leverage in this relationship, and know that it is not, you can control the relationship in many different ways, right? So it means if this is happening and there's things that are going on, it means that they probably have their own issues that they're dealing with and they're struggling with inside, and they should not be sort of projecting this and making you feel very uncomfortable with this sort of circumstance. So really look into that and take a deep dive into whether you actually truly are feeling uncomfortable. Because you deserve the respect. Everybody deserves respect in not only in academia, in the world, right? That's really, really important to have that respect. Now, if this is happening on a regular basis, and you've gone through these different things, you've gone through these different steps, I would highly recommend that you go and talk to either your dean or your provost or your ombudsperson, whatever it is, somebody at your university, and just tell them what's going on, that you've triangulated in multiple ways to attack this issue and it's not resolving itself. That's going to be a good step going forward. I know it's going to seem like a really big step and you're going to take a lot of courage to do this, but know that it's completely in your rights and you probably should do this if you've tried to address it in multiple ways and it wasn't being addressed. It's really important stuff. It sort of sends a signal that there needs to be change in the organization. And often it's really difficult to address these things unless there's not, senior level management at an organization that is addressing these issues. It's kind of like what's going on with the Me Too movement, right? Once you bring it out in the open, things do get changed. And you have to have that courage to bring it out in the open. It's often really difficult to do that. But, you should really be courageous and actually go and talk to a senior level manager at the university, like a provost, for example. It is really difficult to do those things, but know that it's completely in your rights to do those particular things. So the last thing that I want you to do, because a lot of this is very adversarial and you're probably dealing with a lot of baggage at this moment. But what I would do is actually go and talk to a healthcare professional and get some counseling, really hash a lot of this stuff out and ask them, what it is that's going on with you and how to deal with these kind of things. Because you are dealing with a lot of stress at this moment and it's not stress that you really need. So if this is all happening around you, you are going to need to deal with, just basically post-traumatic stress, where you are sort of comprehending what's going on because it's not right, and you have to deal with these kind of things. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.